Welcome to Called to Lead, a podcast series on pastoral leadership for today's church, presented by the Markey Center in Santa Clara University's graduate program in pastoral ministries. I'm your host, Dr. John Rinaldo. Join us and explore leadership in the Catholic Church through stories and conversations with pastors, ministers, and scholars. We connect theology with real-world ministry, highlighting how today's leaders answer God's call to build just and inclusive communities. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Called to Lead. I'm your host, Dr. John Rinaldo, and always excited to have new guests come onto the podcast and share their wisdom and expertise as we look to the future of church and church leadership here in the 21st century. So I'm so excited today to have Toby McChesney, who is the Vice Provost of Graduate Programs at Santa Clara University, with us today. But you're not just the Vice Provost, you have a lot of experience also in marketing communications, and we're going to delve into all that. Toby, how are you today?
I'm great, my friend. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so good, so good. So excited to have your experience here. And especially because tends to be a little bit of a different conversation. Today, we're going to be talking certainly about online learning and marketing communication and what we can learn from that. And so that's a little bit of a different angle that sometimes we go directly is like, how does this affect the parish or the diocese? Well, it does, and we'll get there. So Toby, I'm so excited to have you here. To get started, Toby, you've spent your career working at the intersection of graduate education, leadership, strategy. Seriously, what draw you to this work? Because this is kind of unique.
It is. It is unique and also exciting and challenging at the same time. So first, thank you so much again, John. This is really exciting. I love podcasts and talking about Santa Clara and the brand. I mean, I also am a professor of marketing in our Levy School of Business, and I'm an avid brander. Hence the outfit right now, and I'm on the road a lot and presenting and making sure that our wonderful community on campus at Santa Clara University, but across the country and the world, know about our 52 graduate programs. Of course, GPPM. We'll talk more about that. It always has a soft spot in my soul for that program too. But I love higher ed. I really first found my true calling a long time ago when I was a tour guide at American University, doing admissions tours, walking backwards and showing people the buildings and everything. And just, I love people. I love connecting with people and seeing those eyes, light up over a certain topic. And as a tour guide, as a 19-year-old, I would see that. I would see the parents and students. I would really connect with them. And I would then do interviews, and then I started realizing, my gosh, this could be a career. So I talked to then one of the faculty in the School of Education at American, and she said, "Well, you should do the master's in education, and this is your path. You're great at it." And I said, "Oh my God, okay, sure." So I did my master's and doctorates in higher ed, and continued that path, loving it. Then decided to move to Atlanta, Georgia. And my first stint in graduate education was at Emory University. I ran the executive MBA program, and the joke at the time was that I was a 28-year-old. My executive MBA students were in their 40s and 50s, so they would meet me, they would say, "Okay." But again, you have to know your brand. You have to really be confident, and I exude that. And so we got to obviously bond and love my time at Emory. Then went to Georgia State University, leading all the graduate business programs there. And then again, given my network, conferences, LinkedIn, etc., the dean at the time at Santa Clara University's Levy School of Business heard that I was a rock star and like to change things up. And she said, "We're having some challenges here in our business school here at Santa Clara. Here's this, senior assistant dean job," and never lived out west. And we moved 9 years ago and never leaving California, my friend. So it's been such a great journey here at Santa Clara University. So I came in first in the Levy School of Business, leading all the graduate business programs, helped infuse rankings, more students, metrics, etc. Really elevated the program to where it is now, a top 20 ranked MBA program. And then at the time, the interim president said, "Well, can you come over to the provost office and help the School of Education, Counseling, Psychology, School of Engineering, the graduate program, Pastoral Ministry, and just sort of see what else we could do because I think we're a little deficient in branding and marketing and recruiting overall. And did that for a year, and yes, saw that there were definitely holes. And then they created the permanent vice provost of graduate programs. And honestly, my first program that I really dove into in the online world was the GPPM, the online pastoral ministry program that is really, since I've been in this role for 5 years as vice provost, has accelerated, which is for me, I'm very competitive, but is wonderful to see. So all of that just infused my love for higher ed, my passion around it. And as I always tell people, the biggest joy for me, honestly, is once a year we have commencement, is sitting on that stage, seeing the students come across the stage, a lot of hugs, high fives. The students I know personally, big hug. I always cry because I'm so proud, right? And I think, that's what I really want to embody with all my teams at Santa Clara is we are a Jesuit university. We do believe in strong community. And yes, I'm a vice provost, but I want to know everybody, right? Which is tiring at times.
I love your passion, and
Yeah,
honestly, if you're listening, follow Toby on LinkedIn because they're it's fun to just watch his journey and what he's doing in terms of branding and putting himself out there for the university. And full disclosure, I am an adjunct at the graduate program in pastoral ministry, and I have been since 2018, and I love teaching it. And so we are the beneficiaries, Toby, of your work, which is
yeah,
absolutely incredible. One of the beautiful things about what I love about what we're doing in the graduate program for pastoral ministries is I get to touch base with people who are not in the geographic area that we are in on the West Coast. And so I mentioned, I think, on one of your posts recently on LinkedIn, like, just this past year, I've taught students in Michigan, in Iowa, in
yeah,
Texas, in Washington,
yeah.
of course, all over California as well. And because of the online piece of this, we're able to form pastoral leaders for the church in a way that we didn't have access to before this technology existed. So this
Right.
push is really good. So online learning has become central to higher education. Why would you say it is no longer optional, especially for adults and graduate learners?
Great question. So, in my mind, so we launched our online MBA program in 2017, right before COVID. Thank goodness, because that really opened our eyes to a lot of things. And when COVID hit, we all scrambled, right? Across the country, across the world, of we got to hide, we got to be on Zoom, right? We all got Zoom accounts for the first time, right? We were working from home, we were teaching in our houses. After COVID, a lot of people assumed, not me, a lot of people assumed, okay, we're going to go back to reality, right? The real world, back to face. And California in particular, post-COVID was a little slower to go to, in person, return to work, etc. And that was when we really saw we need to really infuse online education. So that's when we really started marketing and helping you all in the GPPM program. We launched the online restorative justice and chaplaincy certificate. And that's where, for me, a light bulb came out, on of uh, the program is fantastic, but you all talk to each other internally. Nobody knew about marketing was such a foreign word to that team, right? And team, I mean, two people. So small team. So my team came in and truly the marketing people and really helped build the awareness of the online GPPM and online restorative justice certificate. And to your point, part of the mission of Santa Clara University is yes to find students in our community in the Bay Area, but across the country and really now around the world. And what's I'm really proud about is in the fall. Fall is our largest amount of students at the university level. Fall, we had 18% of our total graduate population was an online program. Uh, Rewind 5 years prior, it was 4%. So to see that
Wow.
growth, and now we have online programs in 6 of our graduate schools. all of them, which is wonderful. So yeah, so online learning is here. And I'm always amazed when leaders of other universities come to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about creating an online program." And I sort of think to myself, "Wow, well, great, you should, but you're 7 years too late, honestly, right?" And
At
at
least.
least, right, yes, correct. And honestly, the GPM program was our first. We don't really talk about it because it's such a small program that people
Yeah.
didn't. I actually, when I was in the business school, I didn't know we had an online GPPM, right? Until I came to the Provost office and then really infused the marketing. So yes, online learning can be scary when you first if you're first diving into it, but I think it's here. What we're hearing from time and time again is people are busy. There's traffic, people have families. The typical 5 to 8 class doesn't work anymore, and we have to be online. And we can deliver great content online through Zoom. We have asynchronous courses, we have synchronous courses. We have robust discussion boards that you can really be an active learner and listener at the same time. All of our faculty members in the online world, and I teach in the online MBA program, we are required to have office hours online. Sometimes I sit on my Zoom, for an hour by myself, but I'm still doing work. It's okay, right? But you can still have great connections
Yes.
with your faculty and your peers in the online community. And I think when you think about programs or delivering any kind of online content, really think about your mission, your brand, and how you can connect to your audiences, right? So I
Well,
know that the people listening to this podcast are going to be all over the place. Some are, higher ed leaders, some are in, the church, etc. But if you're listening to this podcast, if you're doing nothing online, start today. And it's
mhm.
not scary, I promise you.
Well, and to your point, it's really interesting. When I started teaching the program, it was January 2018, and then my family and I decided to move to Vegas
Yeah.
in June of 2018. So literally, I've been online. I've come on campus many a times, and I come to different sites along the way. But literally, since I've been teaching for 7, 8 years, how I don't even know how long now, it's been online. It's such a beautiful way to connect. And all my classes are synchronous, so I'm with
Yeah.
them, all the time, right, face to
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
But also, definitely delving into that asynchronous piece. So you've already talked about this, but I want you to dive into it a little bit more. What trends are you seeing at how students want to learn, right? You talked about learning from home. You talked about busy work schedules, lifestyles. What does it mean to be able to go and get an MBA or an MA in pastoral ministry from afar? And how is that really helpful to, these students who want to learn?
Yeah, no, no, great question. So I think first you have to think through what's your end result? Where do you want to go after any graduate program or undergrad or any kind of degree, non-degree program? What's your purpose and what's your end game? So for a lot of our students who live in Vegas, Seattle, et cetera, they want the Silicon Valley content. And that's what our faculty do. Doesn't always apply, obviously, to GPPM, but for the MBA students in engineering, that's what they really want. They want that Silicon Valley touch point. But what I see also for GPPM in particular is really that community overall. So think about it. When you hopefully graduate, you will have friends from different parts of the country, right? And I think this is where a lot of students have to think through when you're part of a graduate program, yes, you're learning from us as faculty members, but don't lose sight of your peers. And those are your friends for life that when you change church, when you move up, when you have a doubt, they're the ones that you can call, right? And I think that's really important. I think a lot of students kind of lose sight of that. They think about what's return on investment, what's the next job, how can I move up? That's all part of it. But don't lose sight of the people next to you or on the Zoom screens or whatever else. And if you are in a completely online program, I'm always going to challenge my students that make sure you connect in the chat room, the discussion boards, LinkedIn with people if you have LinkedIn, et cetera, with your classmates. Because the more you can build your network while you're a student, is so important. And then again, for those of you that are listening that are, you already have your graduate degree or have no desire for a graduate degree, this still applies to you, right? So the more you can understand your community, join those partnerships. If you have LinkedIn, which you all should, but I know again, not every deacon, et cetera, will have LinkedIn. But really find those avenues where you can connect with people because that is so essential right now. I just love obviously connecting with people and being a sponge and learning and helping. And also, in terms of networking, also find a mentor. I think a mentor is so valuable. And in higher ed and in any job, you're going to go through ups and downs, right? Especially right now, higher ed is going through substantial uh, change. We'll leave it at that. A lot of confusion. And it really helps me to talk to my fellow higher ed mentors across the country and now the world. I just came back from China and have new mentors in China. But I can really now just pick up the phone, do a quick email, hop on Zoom or WeChat, and have conversations with like-minded individuals that are grappling with the same challenges. And I don't know all the answers. They don't know all the answers, but together we can try to somewhat solve them or move forward in a productive way. So if you're listening to this podcast, that's something else I want to make sure that you really leave with is really try to find a mentor or somebody that you can look up to just pick their brain, get ideas. You're having a bad day, call them, right? That's your safety, private world that you can just go to rather than go to your boss with a bad day and complain to him or her, right?
I love the emphasis on community. And I say that with my students always in the first class, that we have, that's always synchronous, and I may have 8, 10, 12 students, whatever it may be, and we probably spend the first hour just doing introductions because the
Yeah.
students may not necessarily know each other. And at the
Right.
end of that, I tell my students, I'm like, this is a community that should last beyond this quarter, right? Beyond
Right.
this class that we're teaching, because now you're building relationships with people who have different experiences in church leadership that you can kind of go pick their brain. And
Right.
there's so much value. And sometimes that can be more valuable than the content itself, not to
Right.
degrade the content, but
Right.
the network, the community is so essential. Just a quick story, Toby. One of my students was a priest out of Michigan, and he took numerous of my classes, and he got a chance to meet the author of one of the books that I recommend for one of my classes. And then he ended up being on that author's podcast, and they met at this national event, and and things went from there.
Yeah.
And I always say, certainly in the church world, like the church in the United States is small, right? You run into each other.
Right.
It's not big in that sense. And this technology, online learning, being present, LinkedIn is so essential to this. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. You said something earlier when you started as vice provost and wanted to move the graduate program in pastoral ministries, more marketing and communication, and you said we don't always do that well, and that wasn't just HBM, that's kind of church sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you obviously you teach marketing, you teach communications, branding. You already mentioned that, right? For those who can't see, he's got a Santa Clara University tie. Toby's got a pin on his
There you go. Yeah.
lapel, Santa Clara University. That's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
What are the shifts that you're seeing in how organizations communicate their value and purpose? And what do we have to learn? What do we as pastoral leaders have to learn from those shifts? Because I think I should just ask the question to stop. But I think sometimes we just expect people to come to us in
I wish.
church world, but it doesn't
Yeah.
work, right? And
No.
so even though what we have to offer in church is probably the most valuable thing that we have to offer, right? We still have to put the message out there. We still have to evangelize, right? As
Right.
Pope Francis said, we got to be out there. We got to smell like the sheep. Okay, now let me go back to the question. What shifts are you seeing in how organizations communicate their value and purpose today?
Yeah. No, I love that. So every graduate program is different. So obviously, I'm now going to just really focus on the GPPM because it really is. Uh, Again, didn't know about it. I was at Santa Clara for 4 years. I heard about it, right? And then when I joined the provost office, I was like, well, look at this amazing small program that's now not so small anymore, right? It's doubled in size with students since I've been in the role, which is phenomenal. So we really started. So first, again, my typical LinkedIn messages for for the MBA students doesn't work for GPPM, right? So digital media, all those things don't necessarily work for those type of students. So we actually did, which I haven't done for a while, of the typical flyer, and we mailed the flyer and emailed the flyer to parishes and deacons, etc., across the Bay. I think actually, John, you helped us too with that in Nevada, and that's what we started doing. And we just said, here's our GPPM program. We're doing some online info sessions. They already were doing info sessions, but again, there was no marketing of info. They would put it on the website, and that was it, right?
Come to us. Come to
Come to
us,
us,
right?
right? They're assuming that people are just going to stumble upon our website to learn
Right.
about our info session. So we told, in the flyer, we mailed like 100 of them out easily. Uh, Here are a few of our info sessions coming up. We looked at our database, our CRM, and we emailed. Again, didn't happen very often. We emailed all of our leads and students that started application and just emailed them all the info session dates and times. And they used to have one and two or two people show up to info sessions. Now they're getting 10 to 15 at a time now. So that has changed, right? More of that visibility. And then we did actually put in some dollars. On Facebook and other different, not LinkedIn, but smaller campaigns, and that has helped. We've had more impressions of the ads. It hasn't necessarily always resulted in leads, but more people at least are learning and seeing the brand of GPPM, which my hope is, and this is where this is all marketing, right? Is John may not be interested in GPPM, but he sees this ad, he goes to dinner, he goes to his church, he goes to wherever a volunteer service, and he remembers this and says, "Hey, Toby, I remember you were talking about wanting to do a graduate program, or here's I saw this ad about Santa Clara, right?" So I always tell my team, yes, of course, when I spend money in marketing, I want to see my ROI, but sometimes you always can't see it instantaneously, right? So I think that's also kind of really important to do. And then something else we really did was, okay, return on investment, again, is very different for GPPM than it would be for an MBA. An MBA student, we can easily say after a program, you jumped in your career or you got a 20% pay raise, etc. We have all that wonderful data.
Oh, pastoral leaders could wish for that pay raise, right?
Well, yes, true, true. So we really focus more on, to your point, our community and doing more alumni stories. Our alumni, I mean, I've gone to several graduation commencements and orientations. Again, it's such a special program, and the way everybody knows each other, to your point earlier, and come together. And we had all these amazing alumni that we didn't showcase. So now we do, right? So now we have stories, we have images, we've done videos of those alumni in various parts of the country who are telling their story, uh, email campaigns on the website, etc. So that's something else that we really have pushed forward.
That's beautiful. And by the way, Toby, I don't know if you know this, but I'm also an alumni of the GPPM. Did you know that?
I don't know if I do
I
that.
graduated in 2006 from the
Yeah,
program.
okay.
So
Congrats.
it's
There you
fun to
go.
be able to teach in the program
Yeah,
that I'm a product of, and I'm so thankful for the education that I got. And so,
yeah.
yeah, we should tell that
We
story for
should we
sure.
should do a story about that. Yeah,
I love
I'm
why
gonna
I
put I'm
I
gonna
get
flip it
all
on
the
you.
alumni emails for sure. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it. Would love that. It's funny that you mentioned, ROI, right? And sometimes the intentional push creates an organicness to it, right? We talk about organic reach, right? In terms of that, and that's obviously a very real thing. I've coached parishes for years, Toby, and one of the things that has always come up as we looked at what their plan is one of the strategies I always sit down. It's like, what are all the tools that you use to communicate? And we literally sit there during a staff meeting for like 30 minutes and we list out everything. We talk about the bulletin, we talk about social media accounts, we talk about the website, we talk about video announcements or, pulpit announcements. We talk about the sign that's outside the doors of the church, right? And whatever signage. And what always happens, Toby, is they realize, wow, we have so many ways to communicate, but there's no intentionality, right? There's no strategy around that. And so, again, to this idea, you can't just expect people to come to you. So creating a communication plan, which sounds overwhelming for a lot of pastoral leaders, right, is
Yeah.
really a essential part of this. But they're already doing it. It's not like they aren't communicating.
Right.
Now it's a question of how do you do it?
Right.
And you don't always have to put dollars into it, right? Maybe
Right.
you put some dollars into some Facebook ads, but that's not even where to start, right? Sometimes
Right.
just start regularly posting
Right.
and then go from there. I
Right.
think that's something that we often don't think about
Right.
in
And
church
have a
world.
website that works and links that work, right?
That's
It's
mobile friendly, right?
yeah, right, right. Yeah, so again, so this, it can be daunting, right? It's to your point, it's all those things. So again, I go back to number one, really talk to your community. Where are they going? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on email, right? So first you have to know where your customer, your student, your consumer, whoever it is that you're trying to attract, where do they live? What do they want? And meet them there, number one. Number two, talk to your community. So if there's another church that you feel, my gosh, they've really learned this world and they really are pushing out great messaging to get more people into their church. Again, this is where I go back to the mentoring and networking. Talk to them. People love to help,
Mhm.
right? At least I hope they should, right?
True.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, so talk to that church and say, okay, how did you get this many more people into your parish or whatever that looks like, and have those conversations, right?
Mhm.
And then you'll get some ideas. Now, it may not be a perfect fit for your community, but at least you're learning. So
Right.
yeah, it is daunting. I get it. I think to your point, when it's so overwhelming, people just shut down,
Right.
right? And they just think, okay, well, just forget about it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. And
But
this is where outside people can help, right? And guide that
right. Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Outside people can help. And then just take one. I mean, you mentioned a lot of things earlier, like website, Facebook, take one thing at a time. You don't have to solve everything right away. Again, from my perspective, not knowing everybody's, customer and community, but really is the website. If your website is deficient, uh, doesn't tell your mission, doesn't have a way to connect with you, doesn't has broken links, isn't mobile friendly, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, right?
The way I've always heard describe the website, and you're more an expert at this than I am, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard a lot of the language of a spoken wheel, right?
Mhm.
Where the website is oftentimes the one thing that a parish or a diocese has complete control over, right? Because it's there.
Right,
And then you've got the spokes, that is social media or some of these other things that ideally direct
right,
people in,
right,
right?
right,
Because you're not going to get the organic traffic just on the website.
right.
But Facebook could change their algorithms or what they allow posts or whatnot, or Instagram or whatnot. And so that's always a changing terrain,
Yes.
but it should always focus people into what you have complete control over in the website. Am I right on when I say that, or am I wrong?
100% correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, to your point, since yeah, I mean, go, everything's changing right now in the tech world and online, etc. Uh, if your website doesn't have even just the basic of I'm Toby, I'm on your website, and I just have a question, or I want to learn more information, if there's no button to submit a form of some sort or directly email person X, right there, you're already losing your customer, right? If you can't find how to connect with you instantaneously, your website is
Yeah.
not going to be useful, right?
Well, the other thing I say is what's the number one thing that people are often looking for when they go to a church website? Mass times. Don't
Mm.
make them click a button to find
Right,
mass
right,
times.
right.
Just
Yeah.
put it above the
Don't bury
fold.
it. Yeah,
Don't put
yeah,
it above the fold on the homepage, and you're
yeah,
good, right?
yeah,
That's so important. So,
yeah. It's true. Yeah,
so we started to explore this already, right? For church leaders who are beginning to explore some of these communication tools and these different ways of communicating, what's one or two practical things that you think is most helpful for pastoral leaders to begin to ask at the outset?
yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to your web and trying to figure out who you really are and who you're really trying to serve, and what's your overall mission, identity, and purpose.
Mm,
So I think you first need to really kind of take a deep breath, work behind closed doors and have that kind of powwow session with your staff, whoever else. And honestly, I would bring in some of your parish members, etc. Right? Bring some of them in and see what they're thinking. Right? I
Hmm.
think again, the more you can hear directly from your communities is really going to be important.
Well,
Uh,
you like, to your point, you likely have people in the pews that have expertise in this space, right?
correct.
And
Right.
they may be on your pastoral council, your finance council, or attending mass. Put it out there, right? I
Right.
always tell pastors, I don't need you to be the experts in everything
Right.
because that's unrealistic. But I
Right.
need you to know how to find the right people who are the experts
Right.
to aid in the work that you're doing, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that goes back to this whole mentorship piece. And one tool that I would say as we get ready to close out here, I think it's important, is I think a lot of people treat communication tools as peripheral to the mission of the organization. No, communications tools is the mission, right? When
Right.
we talk about evangelization, communication tools don't help in evangelizing. They are evangelizing tools. And
Right.
that,
Hands
if
down.
that's the one shift I would love to get people to just frame that self a little bit different,
Yeah.
and why a little intentionality can go a
Go a long way.
long way, a
Yeah.
long way.
It can.
Toby, this has been so good. I want to have more conversation. We can keep talking about this because I'm a little nerdy now on communications. And this is coming from a guy, by the way, who like the only social media account he has is LinkedIn because I've gotten fed up with all the other ones. So
Yeah, that's
maybe
fair.
maybe I need to rethink that,
Yeah.
but not
Well,
today. Not
as long as
today.
you're on one platform, that's fine.
And trying to do it well, right? And to your
Right.
point, like you said it earlier, start at one place, right? You don't need to be doing crazy work on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
It's
Start with
overwhelming.
one of them
Yep.
and create some intentionality. I think that's a huge takeaway for those in higher ed, those in the trenches, either doing ministry in the church, both at parish or the diocese. So
Definitely.
Toby, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on here. Again, my guest today was Dr. Toby McChesney, who is the Vice Provost of Graduate Programs at Santa Clara University. Again, thank you so much for your time. This is
Thank
your host,
you.
Dr. You're welcome. This is your host, Dr. John Rinaldo, signing out. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Called to Lead, and we look forward to having you join us for the next episode. Take care and have a great day.